Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. This is the word of the Lord.
Thankfully, you do not have to hear me preach. Pastor Bill left me his sermon, so I will be reading that. The free blessings of God. When her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy mantle, so they named him Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand gripping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. These are from Genesis. Again, these are Bill's words. It talks about having a son and a daughter, and that's not me. One of the things that amazes me most as a parent is how different my two children turned out. Sue and I raised them in the same house with the same rules, fed them the same food, treated them the same way, but they turned out quite differently. Their personalities, passions, gifts, interests are all quite different. My daughter is larger than life. She's full of life and laughter, self-confident and driven. She hates math, but loves the arts, especially dance, and when she's performing live on the stage, she lights up like a Christmas tree. My son is quieter, more reserved, and has an amazing dry wit. He's driven, though not demanding, loves math, and enjoys most sports. He plays a hockey pool with his buddies every winter, and he often ends up winning it. He's a good dad. He calls his mother regularly and talks to his grandmother on the phone weekly, too. It is one of the great marvels of family life, really. Those children born with the same parents, raised in the same family, can turn out so different from each other. Some of it can be explained by differences of sex. Of course, girls are going to like ballet and boys hockey, but much of it defies explanation. It's pure wonder, and the wonder is accentuated when the two siblings happen to be twins. Jacob and Esau were twin brothers, but they sure weren't identical. In fact, they couldn't have been more different. The author of Genesis tells us these two were noticeably different from the day they were born. Esau came out hairy, with a ruddy complexion, while Jacob was smooth-skinned. There was no trouble distinguishing these twins apart. As they grew up, they had very different interests and gifts, too. Esau loved the outdoors and became a skillful hunter. Jacob proved to be quieter and preferred the indoors. Most curious about this passage is how Jacob got his name. He was born second, and when he came out, his hand was gripping the heel of his brother Esau. So his parents named him Jacob, which means striver or hustler, because he appeared to be striving to catch up with his brother Esau. That name stuck. Jacob proved to be quite the striver, a hustler most of the rest of his life. We see it in today's passage, where he hustles his own brother out of his birthright. Esau arrives home after a day of hunting outside, and he smells the delicious aroma coming from the stew Jacob was cooking. Esau was famished and wanted some of the stew immediately. Jacob makes him pay for his meal. He asks him to give him his birthright for a bowl of stew. For some reason, Esau agrees to it, probably didn't really understand what he was trading away, or maybe he figured his father would never honor such a deal anyway. Either way, Jacob is on the hustle, and he goes on to trick his father on his deathbed, pretending to be his Esau. He gets the family birthright anyway. Jacob is no saint, and yet we are drawn to him for some reason anyway. Why? because we identify with him. We understand him, relate to him. We have dreams and aspirations too, and we want them to come true. We all do. Read any school yearbook, and you'll see there a litany of hopes and dreams underneath the picture of every graduating student. We have dreams we know the only way they'll ever come true is if we hustle and make them happen. So we're all strivers, like Jacob. And we sympathize with his frustration with Esau because he's the all-American boy. Life gets handed to Esau on a silver platter. He doesn't have to strive for anything because everything comes easy for him. He's the firstborn, and by virtue of his birthright, he inherits the family's wealth. More than that, he's the apple of his father's eye. He's athletic, a skillful hunter, and makes his dad proud by bringing home game whenever they go out hunting. It's effortless for him, and that makes his father proud. Hey, I'd like you to meet Esau. You should see what he can do with a bow and arrow. Not so Jacob. He doesn't even like the outdoors, and he's good at doing requires hard work and effort. And the sorts of things he does enjoy, don't impress his father much. Hey, Dad, I made a stew for supper tonight. A stew, huh? Nice. You're a big help to your mother, son. Jacob can't live up to his brother. So we identify with him. His story is our story. His striving is our striving. His envy of Esau is our envy too. You see, we have a twin also. Oh, not a flesh and blood one, but we have a twin that we'd like to be who we measure ourselves against. It may be one of your siblings, it may be a colleague at work, it may be an imaginary twin, the person you wish you could actually be. You got a B on that math test, but your twin pulled off an A without even trying. So some of us have it made in the shade, and some of us have to make it happen. Jacob is our boy, all right, a striver just like us. You learned long ago that dreams don't grow on trees. If you want a dream to come true, you have to pursue it with all you've got. Life isn't easy. You have to be determined. You have to really want it, and then you have to go out and make it happen. Hustle is the name of the game, right? Well, that is precisely the mindset that this story sets out to dismantle. Striving and hustling are not the answer to a blessed life. In fact, it's the best way to mess up your life, because the best dreams in life aren't the ones you can make happen. They're the ones God insists on giving you. You cannot pry them from the sacred hand of God. You can't swindle them because they are freely given. Having someone fall in love with you, that's a gift you can't earn. Finding that one person who turns out to be your lifelong best friend, the blessing of a new baby or grandbaby in your family. You see, the best things in life come unearned, free, and if you insist on earning them, hustling them, you're going to mess things up royally. That was Jacob's flaw, and perhaps our flaw too. And we need to go back and read the announcement that God makes at the very beginning of this passage. God tells Rebekah that she will give birth to twins, and that the second child will be the child of blessing. The elder would serve the younger. Surely Rebekah told Jacob about God's announcement at some point, and yet he couldn't bring himself to believe it, because his father and the rest of the world all favor Esau, the one who could run fast, read faster, got better grades, was the star quarterback on his high school football team, and voted most likely to succeed. And Jacob, maybe your mama thinks you're special, but you're no Esau, and you know it. And so, Jacob thinks he needs to become Esau before he can get blessing in this life. That's why Jacob decides he must swindle the birthright from Esau. It's the only way to assure any blessing for himself. So he catches Esau in a moment of weakness when he's very hungry. Granted, he should have valued it more than he did, and that's his lesson to learn. Privileged people often must learn that lesson. So Jacob swindled Esau's and then tricked his father in giving him the blessing, putting goat skin on his arms so his dad thinks he's Esau, the hairy one. He swindles blessing for himself, but it costs him dearly. His father is bitterly disappointed in him. His brother is absolutely furious, and Jacob must run for his life to his uncle Laban's place, where he has to work outdoors all day tending goats. Jacob's flaw is that he thought he had to lie to his father in order to receive blessing. But God had blessed Jacob before he was ever born, and all he needed to do was believe it and accept it. The same is true for us. We're blessed by God. We're beloved children of God, baptized into Christ, and redeemed with a heavenly price. We are blessed beyond measure because the love of God can't be earned, swindled, or hustled, only accepted as a free gift and enjoyed. And we are reminded of that blessing every time there is a baptism here in the church. We remember that we were at the font once ourselves, and the blessing of God is for us too. We've been washed clean, we've been grafted into the household of God, and we've been redeemed by the love of Jesus. And that love follows us and blesses us throughout our lives freely. So why are we running around each day as if it's all up to us? Why do we think, if anything good is going to befall me today, I better get hustling and make it happen, otherwise I'll be left empty-handed? We are God's beloved, but we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders because we don't believe we are blessed. I had a conversation with one of the mothers in my previous congregation once. I was complaining how organized sports has taken young families out of church on Sunday mornings. Soccer is the biggest culprit, but there's no shortage of sports to blame. I said to her, "Why is it everybody has to have their kids in organized sports nowadays? When I was a kid, we played baseball, we played soccer, football, and hockey, but it was all just pickup. We went down to the park, picked up teams, and we played away, and we had great fun. Nowadays, every kid has to be in a league for sports. Why?" She said, in large part, it's because parents want their children to find a sport that they like and are good at, because there's always a chance they could get a sports scholarship to college. She revealed that parents nowadays begin quite early as middle school, to groom their children to get into the best college possible. Passing grades aren't good enough. You have to get the best marks possible. Study, learn, get tutoring if necessary, and get those grades up. In high school, the family effort kicks into high gear. Every teen is focused on getting into college. They volunteer, join extracurricular clubs, get on the elite teams, and study. Why? Because success in life is determined by the college education you get. It was a sobering conversation because I had never heard anyone lay it out so plainly before. And if it's true, there are a lot of high-stressed families out there. Everybody is striving for the blessing of college that only comes to those who put in the Herculean effort for it. Standing at the end of my career, I have a different perspective on blessing. I remember as I was nearing the end of high school, I went to the guidance counselor and said, "I don't know what I want to be. I need some career guidance." So the counselor administered an aptitude test on me. It was a series of about 250 questions that would identify my passions and gifts. The test came back and he said, you have two very high areas of interest in your life, music and helping others. I've made a list of careers that you should consider for yourself. The number one career on the list was clergy. I mulled over the test, but didn't find any of the careers listed of any interest to me. So I went over to the filing cabinet in the guidance counselor's office and started looking at all the career options listed in there. They were in alphabetical order. I came across one for airline pilot. I pulled it out and said to the counselor, this sounds like something I'd really like to do. So I applied to Seneca College for their aviation and flight technology program. They had a couple of thousand applications, but only 200 were selected, and I was one of them. So off to college I went. We were told first day that the course load was heavy, that only half of us would be in the class by the end of the first year of study. Out of that 100, only 40 of us would be chosen to continue the second year. They were right. By the end of the first year, there were only 90 of us left on the course. But they changed their minds and how many of us they would take into the second year. They lowered the number to 30. I didn't get in even though I had worked my tail off and received great marks. I was despondent and didn't know what to do next. So I took a year off school and went to work in a factory while I reconsidered my life. It was during that year that I began to feel called into ministry. I didn't think that was for me, but I couldn't dismiss the call. So I went and talked to a couple people whose counsel I respected. They both affirmed me. So I applied to York University that fall and got a Bachelor of Arts, and then went on to seminary after that. The rest is history. As I look back, I'm quite sure God knew better than I did what was best for me. For 43 years, I've been a pastor, first in the PCC and then in the PCUSA, and I can't imagine I'd be more satisfied as an airline pilot than I have been as a pastor. Being a pastor has provided the motherlode of blessing to me, and it wasn't even on my radar, but it was on God's. Blessings come from God. That is the lesson for Jacob today. He doesn't need to steal his brother's blessing because God has already blessed him. The same is true for us. We don't need to hustle or strive or swindle to receive blessing. We just need to open our hands and receive it because God wants to give it to you. Maybe today someone will hear this message, open their heart, and open their hands and accept the blessing that God desires to give them. Maybe today someone will stop striving and begin trusting. Maybe today. As the hymn says, God whose giving knows no ending, from your rich and endless store, nature's wonder, Jesus' wisdom, costly cross, grave shattered door. Gifted by you, we turn to you, offering ourselves in praise. Thankful song shall rise forever, gracious donor of our days. Amen.